Welcome to the Brother Henry and
You Show.
This show is
life transforming,
edifying, challenging, and life-giving,
informative.
Your life will never be the same.
In Jesus' name.
Enjoy today's program. Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I would like to say thank you to everyone that has tuned in today to listen. Today we have special guest, Dr. Michael Brown. Dr. Michael Brown is a national and international speaker. He is the author of 25 books. He is the host of a daily nationally talk radio show called Line of Fire, and he is very known for as Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown, thank you so much for this opportunity to interview you. I do not take it lightly.
Well, I appreciate your heart, brother, and honor you in the Lord. Thanks so much.
I'd like to interview you about your book, Revolution. When did you write that book?
I wrote the book in the end of '99 and the beginning of 2000, and of course we continue to circulate it as a now message. What happened was, in the midst of a revival movement that I was in the city of Pensacola that had spread around the country and around the world, as we were watching people come and get right with God night after night, stand online for 12 hours outside the building just to get in, to get a seat, sinners repenting and getting radically saved, my heart was stirred in terms of what God could do. My heart was stirred in terms of the radical changes that needed to come. And I realized that more of the same would only produce more of the same. It'd be like someone that's not eating in a healthy way, and every year they're gaining weight thinking, well, I'll just do a little better. Now, more of the same is only going to get you the same results. I realized that we needed a spiritual revolution. We needed radical change in the church, and as radical change in the church came, that it could then bring radical change to the society. That we needed a fresh Jesus revolution, that things had gone so far in America that just our normal church efforts weren't going to turn the tide. And I got tremendously burdened to write the book, and I wrote it in an intensive 6-week period in the midst of a very, very busy schedule. And then it was kind of a supernatural story from there. Afterwards, God provided funds for us to print up and give away almost 100,000 copies of the book at the largest youth prayer gathering in America's history. Several 100,000 Christian young people came together for a day of prayer and fasting in D.C. September 2nd of 2000, and we handed out tens of thousands of copies of the book, and that was our seed of saying we need a Jesus revolution, and that theme has burned in my heart from that day until this, that we must have a fresh Jesus revolution in America.
That's amazing. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, I was at a rally that we had in 1999 in New Jersey. I was traveling with a team from the Brownsville Revival, and we had just spoken in a big convention center outside of New York City in New Jersey. Maybe about 8,000 or 9,000 people that were there. And I got up, I did a major teaching in the daytime. One of my colleagues was preaching the night meeting. But I got up and just gave a short exhortation, just about 5 minutes. And one of the things I said was, this group has come out of the closet and this group has come out of the closet. It's time for us to come out of the closet. Meaning, take the gospel out of our church buildings, into the streets, into the communities, and do it without fear, without shame. Well, that night, I went back to the hotel room, and there was a documentary on that caught my attention. I watched it on TV, and it was about the rise of religious fundamentalism worldwide, beginning in the late 1970s, about the rise of Ayatollah Khomeini and the Iranian Muslim Revolution and other similar movements around the world. And then it was showing what was happening with Christianity in America and the rise of the moral majority and the religious right. and I was watching, and here's a rally, and it's 1979, so it's 20 years earlier, and it's basically a Christian rally, but it's a pro-Reagan rally, and one of the speakers gets up and he says, the communists have come out of the closet and the homosexuals have come out of the closet. It's time we come out of the closet. And I looked at this and I was stunned, and I said, that's... Now, he was talking more in terms of political action, but I looked at it and I thought, that's very similar to what I said tonight in the same kind of convention center with the same kind of crowd, except it's 20 years later and things are 20 years worse in America. And it struck me, more of the same is not going to do it. We need a revolution. Revolution is not just another option. Revolution is when everything else fails. A radical, dramatic, sweeping change, out with the old, in with the new. And I don't mean revolution in the carnal, worldly sense, in terms of guns and knives and intimidation and crowds and threats. I mean it in the Jesus sense, where he so radically works in our lives that the entire society is shaken.
Dr. Brown, people may hear that word revolution and it may cross their minds like, what does that word mean? What does that word revolution mean to you?
Well, fundamentally, it's talking about radical change. It means that something is terribly wrong right now with the system. The communist revolution was workers of all nations unite. The American Revolution, we got to the breaking point with the oppressive rule of the home country and said enough is enough. The sexual revolution of the 60s cast off the values of the older generation as restrictive and inhibiting and said we want, quote, freedom. And that word freedom is normally the underlying word in every revolution. Most revolutions are negative, are destructive, are bloody, are violent. Most revolutions replace one bad thing with another bad thing. But a Jesus revolution replaces the ways of the world with the ways of the kingdom of God. It brings real freedom to people's souls. And for me, when we talk about Jesus revolution, we're talking about living out what Scripture says. We're talking about not just our normal churchianity, not just our normal way of doing spiritual business, not just saying our prayers and reading the Bible and trying to lead nice lives, but rather saying Jesus called us to radical obedience. Jesus called us to leave everything and follow him. And as we do that, radical change will come. I got saved, Henry, in 1971. I was a heroin-shooting, LSD-using 16-year-old hippie rock drummer, Jewish kid, no interest in God, no belief in Jesus. Got radically saved, but I didn't know that at the same time around the world God was saving people just like me in the most dramatic ways. Hippies, radicals, rebels of every kind. And it was called the Jesus Revolution at the time. Probably started around 67 with an outpouring in the hippie community in San Francisco and spread there around the world. It was a really sovereign thing that God did. You can't just trace it to any human being or any movement. It was the Spirit poured out. And Time Magazine, 1966, had a cover story. One of the cover stories asked, "Is God dead?" 5 years later, 1971, cover story, Jesus Revolution. And that's the only thing that's going to turn the tide of the backsliding and compromise and worldliness and sin that's in the Church of America today, and of course, that's still in the society.
Amen. That's awesome. What audience are you trying to reach with this book, Revolution, or even then when it came out?
Well, I was primarily speaking to believers. It wasn't a book primarily to reach the lost, but I was primarily speaking to believers, beginning with serious high school age, so maybe in mid-teens, and then right up to the oldest believer, leaders as well as young believers together, congregants as well as preachers and teachers, those who know there must be more. Those who know that Jesus calls us to more, Jesus wants to use us more, and Jesus has more for us. That's who I'm speaking to believers who are hungry and thirsty, to believers who want to make their lives count, to believers who've had it with status quo Christianity.
What is the overall message of the book? Like, if you could sum this book up in one word, what would it be?
Ooh, if I had to just sum it up. Well, here's the shortest I can say it. Look at revolutions in history. Look at radical commitment that people have to a revolutionary cause. Look at world revolutions, and now ask yourself, what does it mean to be a Jesus revolutionary? What does it mean to be a real disciple? The mindset of a revolutionary is life as it is not worth living, but the cause is worth dying for. The Jesus revolutionary follows the master who said, if you save your life, you lose it. If you lose your life for my sake and the gospel, you find it. It reminds me of words that Martin Luther King spoke in the midst of the civil rights movement when his approach to nonviolent resistance was drawing violent responses, and people were suffering a lot, and some people were evaluating, can we go on with this, or do we need to step back? And Dr. King got up and said that a man dies when he refuses to stand up for justice. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is right. A man dies when he refuses to stand up for that which is true. That's the spirit of a revolutionary. The purpose of this book is to inspire the spirit of a revolutionary to rise up in the hearts of the people of God.
That's awesome. Dr. Brown, I really appreciate you so much for taking this opportunity for me to interview. It was a powerful interview, and I know that our viewers are going to be blessed by listening to this. For more information about Dr. Michael Brown, visit www.askdrbrown.org. Again, www.askdrbrown.org. Also, facebook.com/Ask Dr. Brown. I believe, if I'm correct, Dr. Brown, you have different teachings and different books and stuff like that.
Oh, yes, sir. If anyone visits the website, askdrbrown.org, they'll find literally thousands of hours of free material. They can listen to the daily broadcast 2 hours a day live online, or any of the past episodes. They can watch our many YouTube videos. We've got debates and lectures and sermons. Every week I'm writing 2 or 3 or 4 new articles. My newest one was just posted today, which is maintaining a spirit of optimistic faith in a messed up world. So when folks go to the website, they just click on latest article, latest video, latest broadcast. And then, if they go to the Facebook page, through the day, we're posting edifying quotes, links to articles, important news, putting up subjects for discussion. So it's a great place for folks to weigh in and get involved. A great place also for teamwork. When I write an article, you can then share it with your friends. They can share it with their friends. And on a good week, we've reached more than 10 million people just through the Facebook page. So it's a great, great opportunity to work together and promote the message.
That's amazing. I also want to say to our viewers, not only visit the page, but like the page. That way you can have access and you can follow Dr. Brown and what he's doing. This book, Revolution, is actually a free book according to your website if people will become a monthly supporter. So I thought that was a good deal, Dr. Brown.
Oh, yeah. Well, we always try to give and bless. And when I just wrote my monthly letter a few minutes ago to our supporters, which we call torchbearers, who help us with at least $1 a day per month, when I wrote to them, every time I close, from my heart, I thank them and say, together we're making a difference. So we always try to sow back into people. That's why through our monthly supporters, we have all of these free resources on the internet. And instead of having to charge for everything, we can make so much free there. And then every month we send our supporters a new audio message. We give them a 15% discount on our online bookstore. We give them access to online classes. So this way we can keep sowing back. And the Revolution book is a book we thought, this is something. When it came out, we gave away over 70,000 copies with the goal of helping to spark a revolution. And again, I say that word not talking in terms of earthly revolutions, but the Jesus revolution. We've seen what happened in the counterculture revolution. We've seen what happened with radical negative change in the society. Someone pointed out a few years back, and I quote this at the beginning of the Revolution book, that if you fell asleep in the year 1960, you woke up in the year 2000, you'd wake up to the divorce rate double, teen suicide up 3 times, reported violent crime up 4 times, prison population up 5 times, children born out of wedlock up 6 times, people living together out of wedlock up 7 times. Shocking statistics. That's what happened with the counterculture revolution. We need a Jesus revolution to take back the moral ground that was stolen from under our feet. And with that, whatever we can do to sow into that and to ignite people's hearts to serve God, together we can make a difference, because it's not going to be one person or one ministry. It's going to be the body raising up in the fullness of the Spirit that makes a difference together.
Amen. We need a Jesus revolution. I totally agree with that, Dr. Brown. Hey, I want to say thank you again, Dr. Michael Brown, for taking this opportunity to allow me to interview you today. God bless you, sir.
God bless you. Thank you so much.